It's perfect. It's unbelievable.
It's a miracle.
It's a TV dinner.
It's WandaVision.
It could change the world.
Couldn't resist, mate.
WandaVision has finally completed its run, and here are my general thoughts on the show. This has been a long time coming for many Marvel fans, along with the Falcon and Winter Soldier and the Loki series. Going into it, I wasn't really sure what to think of it, but that being said, I was just so happy to have some Marvel content. Finally, I am about to eat some major crow here. This show was really solid. If you watch the trailers, it looks like it's going to be some kind of a homage to the sitcoms from the 50s and 60s and some of the 70s sitcoms as well. As far as I can tell, they don't really show you the full plot, which on Marvel's part, it's pretty clever. They do a good job of keeping secrets. There's a total of 9 episodes. The first episode is basically a homage to the Dick Van Dyke Show and Ozzie and Harriet, with Vision and Wanda living in this nice suburban house in the 50s, along with the various archetypal characters like the nosy neighbor, played by Kathryn Hahn, and the married couple that comes to visit them for dinner. The homages in here are off the charts. The dolly shots, the aspect ratio, how it slowly changes as you go into the 1960s, and obviously the colors change as well. But there are a couple of hints in the first few episodes that make you go, something's going on here. Little things like this.
Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it.
Or the beekeeper that pops up from the pothole in the middle of the street, or the helicopter drone, or the radio message, which turns out to be later from Agent Jimmy Woo. Kind of reminded me of the opening of The Matrix, where you're in this place but something feels off kilter about it. Then you see that stunt by Trinity, and as a viewer it makes you go, what was that? And throughout the rest of the show, we get to see more and more of what was happening. Monica Rambeau, who turns out to be the daughter of Captain Marvel's best friend, was actually faded into dust by Thanos' snap. And they show a scene of her coming back from the snap, and we see the full impact of what Thanos' actions had on the whole universe. Personally, if you ask me, I think it did it so much better than Spider-Man Far From Home. But that's just me personally. And as someone who watched some of the old sitcoms from the 50s like I Love Lucy and Ozzie and Harriet, the homages to those shows are so spot on. And I'm not really into sitcoms anyway. That one sitcom that I really like, and in fact I adore it, is Seinfeld. Hey, maybe I'll do a video on it one day. Then as we go into the 70s, we get a bit of a Brady Bunch feel. And then the 80s, we see a Family Ties vibe, along with Full House. And then we get into the 90s, early 2000s, we see a little bit of Malcolm in the Middle, and also Modern Family, where you see the characters breaking the fourth wall, from like Wanda to Vision, Darcy. Fans of Modern Family and Family Ties are gonna eat all this up. Another indication that we know that something's off here, Wanda tries at every single turn to push back something that's threatening to destroy her reality. Vision, who's obviously smart enough, rightfully so, starts to catch on that something's not right, so he goes around asking all these other people and realizes that she's basically holding this town hostage. And it's revealed that when she went to look for Vision's body after she was brought back from the dead, she went to the Sword Agency to try to bury her body, and the agent Hayward refused to let her do so. So she ends up going to Westview, New Jersey, to the house where she and Vision were supposed to be, and through an act of desperation, anger, and grief, she explodes, takes over the whole town, and creates her own little reality that she always envisioned ever since she was a kid watching sitcoms with her parents, which we also get a flashback to, seeing her parents being killed by the military, which had a Stark Industries weaponry to it. Hence why she and her brother were so mad at Tony Stark in Age of Ultron. Up until now, I was a little bit off and on with Wanda Maximoff. I thought she was alright, but I never really was in love with her, so to speak. But this show actually makes me appreciate her, and I have to give a round of applause. Elizabeth Olsen finally won me over. I thought she was fine in Age of Ultron and in Civil War, but here she has fully won me over. And Elizabeth, if you're somehow watching this, huge thumbs up. Paul Bettany, so glad to have him back. Even if he wasn't real as Vision, he was one of the best parts of the MCU, and I'm really glad that we got to see him at least one more time, especially when he faces off against White Vision, which that fight scene was insanity. Absolute insanity. And that's actually left open-ended since he goes away having Vision's new refound memories. And I'm wondering, are they going to touch on that in a future movie or show at some point? I would hope so. But it's Marvel. I trust that they know what they're doing, so we'll see what happens. I don't know the actress's name, but I do like Monica Rambeau's addition in this series. How she basically feels a similar pain that Wanda feels, being plagued by tragedy and trying to connect with her in some way. Maybe not quite as interesting as Wanda, but I did really like her addition nonetheless. And her partnership with Jimmy Woo and Darcy, trying to figure out a way to stop Agent Wayward. Is it Hayward or Wayward? If I mess it up, I apologize. But them trying to stop the Sword Agents was actually really kind of nail-biting, and it kind of reminded me of Mission Impossible. But the inclusion of Kat Dennings, I got nothing against her personally. I didn't really like her character in the first 2 Thor movies, and I get, given her expertise, she was someone that they could definitely use in trying to figure out what's going on, and still, she is just obnoxious. Thankfully, she's not in there for that much, but whenever she was on screen, I always ended up saying, go back to Wanda and Vision. Give us Monica or Jimmy Woo, something, please. When she came in, I literally said, oh my God, why is she in here? But it's not just the stuff with Wanda. There's other evil forces that are lurking in the background as well. With Agnes, the annoying neighbor, played by Kathryn Hahn. The moment she showed up in the first episode, I immediately thought, that lady's gonna be trouble. Kathryn Hahn, from all the stuff I've seen her do, has a bit of a edgy vibe to her, and I think she's terrific in this show. As the show goes on, she's not really fazed by certain things that happen. Pietro, Wanda's brother, basically showing up at her doorstep, but a different person, which turns out to be Agnes's husband under a hex, and that it was basically a giant red herring where everybody thought that this was gonna be the connection to the multiverse since Evan Peters played Quicksilver in the Fox X-Men universe. But that turned out to not be true, and I was a little bit excited too, but then after a while I kind of thought, I don't think that's where they're going right now. But then it's later revealed, I think in episode 6 or 7, I forget, that Agnes is actually Agatha Harkness. And there was theories going around that she could possibly be that character, and it turns out she was. And they have that song, It's Been Agatha All Along.
And I killed Sparky, too.
Diabolical.
Not to mention that she wasn't really fazed by the fact that the twins grew up to 10 years old instantaneously. Oh, kids. They grow up so fast, don't they? Wow, gee whiz, look at those 2 young boys. Kathryn Hahn just hams it up to 11, but in the right ways. And they reveal that she was a witch being put on trial for the Salem witch trials, which that's like the furthest back that we've gone into the history of the Marvel Universe, which I really, really like seeing. Her character doesn't have that much emotional weight to her, but she wants the power that Wanda has. And instead of killing her, Wanda decides to spare her by putting her back into that old character's body. And when she needs her, she knows exactly where to find her. And a lot of people wondered if she was connected to the Marvel Universe's version of the devil Mephisto. And some people still think that the twins are like pieces of the Mephisto's soul. It's not really clear at this point. Either way, I feel like we're gonna get some of those answers hopefully in Multiverse of Madness, which is the Doctor Strange sequel, which this show I think is in some ways leading up to it, but this was mostly, I think, a focus on the character of Wanda Maximoff, and I think that in that respect, they succeeded big time. Plus the scene where we see Wanda and Vision saying goodbye to each other, knowing that she has to let these people go, that really, really got me, and I don't think I've cried that much in the MCU, except for Civil War, Endgame, and Iron Man, and maybe a few other small moments, but this one really, really hit me right here. Woo, man. And we finally see the Scarlet Witch costume. That was awesome. That was great. Agent Hayward doesn't really have much to do with the overall plot. He's just kind of there to try to get Vision and stop Wanda from doing what she's doing. People like Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany said there's a Luke Skywalker level cameo in this show. And it turned out that really wasn't the case. I know a lot of people are upset about that, but as far as myself, I really, really tried as hard as I could to temper my expectations. And after what I experienced with The Last Jedi, I learned the hard way to just ignore all the fan theories that are going around out there. There's nothing wrong with having theories about where something could go, but it helps if you keep in mind that your theories could be wrong. Some people wondered if it was going to be Professor X, Magneto, Doctor Strange, or Tony Stark, or Spider-Man. Well, clearly that didn't happen. My message to any of those actors, and I don't mean this in any rude way possible, if you're gonna tease some kind of cameo in this show, make sure you deliver. If you don't say to people that there's something big coming, because people on the internet are gonna guess what your twist is, and then they're gonna get disappointed that it's not what they expected. So for you guys to go, oh hey, we got something big coming, haha, gotcha, it's not there, you're gonna have to realize that people are gonna be upset with you over stuff like that. I wasn't too upset. I just learned to go along for the ride and see where the show was going, and I think for the most part, they did a great job. I mean, the production value, the special effects, the cinematography, the sound design, everything. It's what we come to expect from the MCU. I think Marvel has proven themselves and then some. I don't know if I'm as excited for the Falcon and Winter Soldier and Loki, but seeing the quality of the show, I'm more than willing to see what else they've got. And I'm so glad that we're finally getting some Marvel content, because after the past year in 2020, I'm happy to talk about something Marvel related. And the 2 credit scenes where Monica Rambeau gets summoned by a Skrull in disguise that Nick Fury wants to see her up in space, obviously recruiting her into S.W.O.R.D. And the last one we get is Wanda's hiding out somewhere in Sokovia, and I'm assuming that's her astral projection in the bedroom, trying to look through the book or something, and she hears the voices of her sons, and then boom, credits. Possibly a tie-in to Doctor Strange. Hopefully they'll fulfill their promise. I think that they will. I just hope that they don't try to go for the fake out too much, because after Iron Man 3, I mean, fans were not too happy about the Mandarin twist. So I know that they don't want to piss too many people off, but they are willing to go into a risky territory once in a while. And I like that we saw a little bit of a sitcom homage mixed in with what we usually expect to see from an MCU film. So yeah, I really enjoyed the show. I didn't love it necessarily, but I would say it's a pretty solid entry. And wherever they decide to take this universe post-Endgame, I'm more than happy to check it out. From what I've read, the multiverse does appear to be the next big thing that they're going to focus on in this next phase. The possibilities to me are pretty enticing. So, Marvel, go for it. Go crazy with it, do whatever you feel is right. I'm always going to be on board. Those are my thoughts on WandaVision. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments below. Love it, like it, think it's alright, or do you hate it? Whatever the case is, feel free to tell me your thoughts, and I'll see you all in the next video.